Didn't feel so good after drinking ice water. He's fine now. Thank you.
After he has expunged all the problems that he had. So, well, one thing that we've been able to experience over the last couple of days, or tried to anyway, is a couple of documentaries. And you probably hardly even remember. Let's go back to the documentary we saw. I know it's been since we did this thing, the last one, but it's not a memorable documentary. But we watched this documentary called Brats, and it's about the Brat Pack. And Andrew McCarthy is the producer of it and the director. And basically, it's based on the fact that Andrew McCarthy thought of the Brat Pack as a horrendous experience for him, and the name and everything else, and he does not have fond memories of it, really, at all. And so he wanted to sort of interview all the other people in the Brat Pack and see, how they were doing and what they thought of everything. And they were all pretty cool with the whole experience. So it's really kind of an interesting juxtaposition of him trying to, I think, purge some memories, and everybody else saying, you know what, hey, there were some challenges, whatever, but it was okay. We were friends, and we had our challenges and little rivalries and so on, and they kind of remembered it fondly, and he didn't. So it created an odd dynamic.
I feel sort of bad because it was like I had this terrible crush on Andrew McCarthy. Now I don't have such a terrible crush on Andrew McCarthy. That's all I want to say. It just, he overexposed himself, in my opinion, to the insecurities he really had compared to everybody else about that whole thing. Instead of taking advantage of it, somehow, maybe it just works that way, but he just seemed like he was overwhelmed by it all when it first happened.
This was supposed to be, I think, kind of a passion project for him, and it ended up being seemingly a pity project.
Yeah.
It was more of a pity party than it was anything else. So if you see it, and they did the rounds of many interview shows and everything, and talking about it, and it's, unless you're dying to see the Brat Pack, I can sort of say that you take a hard pass on it, or at least check out a couple of reviews and see maybe if you're really a diehard for the old Brat Pack, that you might want to do that. Well, a couple of other things are more heartfelt and to the point, and let's explore those coming up next, as we'll talk about Bob Newhart and the Zombies and Gene Wilder and some other things that we've experienced recently as well. That all comes your way coming up next, when we have more of Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and the return of Reconcilable Differences with Danny and Jane.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Did you experience hail damage last year and never got the work done? Most insurance companies only give you a year to get the roof fixed, and if you don't get it done, you could possibly not be compensated in full for the replacement of your roof. If you've been procrastinating getting that damaged roof taken care of, give us a call at 913-257-5426, and we'll send out an expert to help you through the process. We're never pushy, we're just here to help. Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
We're here at the 23rd Street Brewery with Matt Llewellyn. And Matt, you've got a great menu. You fine-tuned it a little bit. Great beers. There's always something to be had to put a smile on your face at the 23rd Street Brewery.
Oh, you bet. And Brian Haney would always say, come have the Haney turkey stack. Bill Self would say, come have the Bill Self pasta. I would say, come have the Bill Self pasta. It's great. Great mac and cheese, buffalo mac and cheese. And we've got a ton of other menu items that you're sure to love. We've got a great brewer who's brewing great beer. And if you like craft beer, our guy's the way to go. And we're making great drinks, too. There's a great new distillery in the state of Kansas called Llewellyn Distillery. My brother's doing that. He makes some great whiskey and vodka and rum, and we're doing all kinds of great drinks with those beverages.
Always fun to be had at the 23rd Street Brewery, 23rd and Castle. Come on by anytime and have a good time.
If you'd like to join these and other fine sponsors and market your business on Kansas City's #1 rated podcast, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to working with you.
Welcome back. And last night we were preparing to try and watch a documentary about the Zombies, which I discovered yesterday. I was looking at an article, and it was from just last year, and this was all inspired by the fact that Rod Argent, who was one of the founders of the Zombies with Colin Blunstone, has recently announced that he is stopping from touring. He had a stroke, And he said that he had other close calls, or he described it, or health scares in the past few years, and he kind of ignored them. And this time he's not going to ignore them, and he's going to retire from touring, although he's apparently okay, and he's playing his piano again and the like. So anyway, I saw that a comprehensive documentary on the zombies called Hung Up on a Dream had been done in 2023, and it was very well received. So I said, hey, why don't we watch that? And folks, you can't find it. It was produced in 2023. It was released in theaters in the UK and the United States. It was at Southwest Film Festival. It was at Sundance. And you can't...
Not to be found.
It's not to be found.
If someone knows where this is, let us know.
Yeah, maybe sometime soon streaming services will announce that it's out there. So Plan B came up, and Jane watched the whole thing. I got to catch the last part of it, a 2023 documentary just from last year as well, called Remembering Gene Wilder. And you are a huge Gene Wilder fan. This is a very well done documentary. It's produced by Leonard Nimoy's daughter, and she also did a documentary on Leonard Nimoy in 2017. And Leonard Nimoy and Gene Wilder are close friends, which I didn't know, or were close friends. And Gene Wilder obviously passed away, and there's a lot of things about Alzheimer's which eventually claimed Gene Wilder. But there's archival stuff and a lot of interviews with Gene Wilder, and the buildup of his relationship with Gilda Radner, and the fact that both of those people were finding love, and it was very short-lived and heartbreaking. And eventually he married another woman who he met basically through life experience and things like that. And I'm sure you can tell us more because you love Gene Wilder, and from Blazing Saddles to Willy Wonka and everything in between.
You know what was the best part to me of that was Harry Connick Jr., who was a really good friend of Gene Wilder's, which I thought was really interesting. He dissected Willy Wonka, like the way Gene Wilder, focused on how he was going to do that role. And I feel like Harry feels. I love everything Gene's done. I'm in love with Young Frankenstein, but to me, there is an innocence but a brilliance to Willy Wonka, even though that movie now may be dated for a lot of young folk because it wasn't, it was before the Star Wars and all the electronic stuff came out. I mean, it's a charming, heartfelt. That's where I fell in love with Gene, and it's been a love story forever. And then fabulous moments with Gilda. He actually met his wife, his second wife, when they were preparing for Richard Pryor in his last movie where he was deaf, and she worked with deaf people. So that was kind of an amazing thing. But what I loved is when Mel Brooks just couldn't, say enough. And I won't give it away, but he really met Gene through Anne Bancroft. And I'm not going to go into that. That's a really interesting, because that really is what started Gene's career. This was so piece by piece. I mean, it really delved in like I thought it never would. I was at first skeptical because it wasn't like a phenomenally produced, beautiful film, but it just gave great background.
There were a lot of home movie type of things with Gene Wilder, and a lot of him and a lot of Mel Brooks too. This whole production was compromised at times by COVID, and they had to delay production, and they didn't want to just do Zooms or whatever, and they kind of waited for Mel Brooks because they hadn't gotten him yet. And of course, the famous story is that basically Gene Wilder was like the third choice for the Waco Kid in Blazing Saddles. Mel Brooks, who of course is brazen enough to think he wanted John Wayne, and John Wayne said, "I can't do that. I'm John Wayne. I can't make fun of westerns." And then they gig young. He got too drunk to be the Waco Kid.
He was actually on the set and got really sick.
Yeah, and
so he was there, and they were like, "No,
no, he's too much of an alcoholic." And it just seems like through blundering, and Gene Wilder really advocated himself for the role, you can't even imagine anybody else playing the Waco Kid except for Gene Wilder. So this is as good a documentary maybe as Bratz is not such a good documentary. And if you have any affection whatsoever for all the great movies that Gene Wilder was in, or Gene Wilder himself, he's just a lovely man. And it's remembering Gene Wilder and remembering him fondly, for sure. Well, one thing that has been going on through the house, through a little bit of illness and great health, has been the sounds of serious singing from you, because you are revving up for some recitals in the fall, and they will come actually wrapped around our visit to New England for my high school reunion, a milestone one. I'm not going to say which one, but you can probably figure it out. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about the process of, I mean, this is months in the making. I don't think people really understand what it's like, the memorization. And, there's one particular Cole Porter song that I'm not really that fond of, that I get to hear on a daily basis. But there's all kinds of lovely songs, and I get to hear Summertime, which is one of my favorite songs that Jane sings. And I like the Cole Porter song. It's just the lyrics, which you were trying so
They're
hard.
They're hard.
So hard.
I'm doing a. It's actually Jerome Kern.
Oh, okay.
It's a Jerome Kern's medley, and so a couple of his songs are so lyrically thick, and they are so similar in the verses that you can mix them up and blah blah blah. So I'm,
maybe that's how I could get it mixed up, because they actually have sort of Cole Porter-ish type lyrics.
Yeah. Oh, well, same era. This is it's all about love. It's all about the title is All the Things You Are. And John Livingston, who's my pianist, we're going to be doing some great stuff, some timeless opera, but also the impetus for this is some fabulous Spanish pieces. One in particular, Alfonsina y el Mar, by Ariel Ramirez, which is fantastic. We're also doing some music from Cinema Paradiso. This is not to be missed, guys. Westport Presby, September 20th, Friday, September 20th at noon, and then the Royal Joyce Recital Series on Monday, October 21st at JCCC. So, got to still do it. It's my only good muscle, right? So we got to make the most of it.
We'll keep you up to date as time goes along, but I just wanted to have you get a sense of the fact that these recitals are in September and October, and you've been working on these already for months.
You gotta get it in your voice.
And I'll be so excited to see it, and I get to see the process and hear the process all the time. And Willie loves the singing, and Willie loves music in general. And recently, last few days ago, you were just downstairs, basically oohing and eyeing and cooing and whatever to this Japanese piano performance, and you can tell the folks about this amazing pianist.
So he's a composer first and an actor, but he's he composes on the piano.
And his name
is Ryuichi Sakamoto. And if you don't know his fabulous music, it's very mesmerizing. He actually started when he was young. He had Yellow Magic Orchestra in Japan, he started with electronic music, and then he was one of the first persons to compose film music that include electronics. Like his first big foray, which is where I got to know him, was the fabulous David Bowie movie, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. It's a cult. It's a cult film now, and Sakamoto was also in the film as one of the major characters, pivotal character. He went on to win an Academy Award for Last Emperor, but he's been composing all along. He passed away. We lost him. I'm in total reverence. We lost him last year, but his son was smart enough to film him in 2022, performing, I believe, 20 of his compositions on his own in black and white in this most gorgeous soundstage. You may not love his music, but I'm telling you, this is a piece of art. It's a piece of art. Absolutely stunning. And some of the music I hadn't heard before, his chord progressions to move the mood of the moment. You can see why he was such a great film composer. He's a master.
Ryuichi Sakamoto won an Oscar, a BAFTA, that's the British Oscar basically, a Grammy, 2 Golden Globes, and on and on. And he has one of the pieces that Jane was listening to, had her virtually in tears, is so mesmerizing and quiet. And Willie was just right in front of the television.
He was watching him for like at least 45 minutes. My dog was staring at this man on the piano playing this amazing music. You don't think animals are affected by music? Think again.
Willie was absolutely mesmerized as much as you are. And in a totally different vein, he didn't mesmerize you, but he sure entertained you. And it's before we close, we have to pay tribute to Bob Newhart, who passed away in the past week. He lived a long and fruitful life. Sort of like some of these comedians. It's like if they're not people who get sideways with themselves, like Freddie Prinze or young people. It seems like comedy does something for these people. Carl Reiner